Hello everyone, and welcome back to another Mirror Dungeon solo video. Today we'll be using the identity that's the best at draining your bank account, Base Rodion. Just like with every base identity, she leaves quite a lot to be desired. However, I would argue she's far from the worst identity in the game. I mentioned this briefly in my last video, but almost every bleed identity inflicts around 3 to 4 bleed potency with any one of their skills. Rodion is also one of the identities who follows this. However, if her passive is online, it gives her a 50% chance to inflict one more bleed. As long as you get a little bit lucky with your passive procs, she is equal to Barber Otis with her bleed potency application. She's also capable of partially fueling the best bleed ego in the game, Sanguine Desire, and she's quite good for bleed in the Mirror Dungeon as every one of her attacks will trigger the ego gift Wound Claret, which is pretty much all you need. Despite this though, she suffers quite heavily when it comes to clashing. Her highest rolling skill can only reach a 12, and I don't need to tell you how bad that is. To start the run off, we take all 3 of these starting bleed gifts and choose the Outcast for the first floor. The final fight for this floor is up against the Golden Apple, a fight that every identity should be able to solo. Wound Claret's amazing bleed is more than enough to make this fight go by relatively quickly. We take Thunder Branch for our reward and head into Lake World for the next floor. Here we buy Lithograph, Oracle, and an extra skill 3 before making it to the boss against the Twin Hook Pirates. This run was done before Project Moon changed this fight to be backup based, so for this run it's still wave based. Not that it really makes much of a difference. Rodion's natural resistance to slash damage makes this fight not really much of a threat. Of course, we do have to be slightly careful and make sure our bleed stack doesn't get too out of control, but by the time we get out of the first wave, the rest is pretty simple as we can clash with almost everything despite our less than stellar clash power. We take Helterfly's Dream for our reward and head into Emotional Craving for the next floor. Here we fuse Respite and Arrested Hymn before making it to the boss against the Wayward Passenger. This fight's not that bad, all things considered. Being slash resistant makes it a lot easier. Of course, being fatal to envy damage does allow the passenger to hit hard with certain skills, and my natural instinct to reset upon losing a clash kicks in before deciding to ride it out instead. Getting staggered on the first turn of this fight is not that big of a deal. Yes, it does let all of his portal buffs get active, but you also don't take any extra damage from it. With our low clash power though, it could certainly prove to be quite a problem, but by channeling our inner gambler, we get lucky with the passenger rolling mostly tails and can avoid getting staggered on the first turn. Unfortunately, we are only capable of defeating the portals with a single skill if we use a skill 3. And getting only one of them means we have to let 3 of the portals activate no matter what. I should have destroyed the blue portal as it gives coin power, but going into this fight I was hoping that Rodion's skill 2 would have enough damage. Sadly, it did not. Letting the blue portal stay alive does result in me losing a clash that I wouldn't have otherwise, but it doesn't end up staggering me, so ultimately it's fine. The second time the portals appear, I learn my lesson, attacking each portal with skill 3s, and the one I can't, I just double up. After that, we have the typical clashing with as many skills as possible, while doing as much bleed damage as we can, and losing a few clashes here and there, but no big deal, until finally we're hit by these passengers' skill check. One that is impossible for Rodion to pass. This skill check instantly does 40 damage, staggers us, and we lose the fight. Second try and we do a lot better. Having more successful clashes lets us stack up a much higher bleed stack, which in turn allows us to do more damage quicker and defeat the passenger before his skill check ever appears. We take Nixie Divergence as our reward and head into Trickled Sanguine Blood for the next floor. Here we buy Imposed Weight and Rusted Muzzle while also fusing Red Stained Gossipium before entering into the boss against the Gossipium. Not having access to Fang Hunt Honglu's passive because he didn't exist yet, and also being fatal to pierce damage made this fight quite tricky. Getting staggered on the first turn is virtually guaranteed and makes this fight very RNG dependent, which is quite fitting. The problem was that we cannot consistently win clashes on the first turn, and if the Gossipium rolled too many heads, then the bleed stack would ultimately do us in. This whole gimmick of negating our stagger and giving us attack power down doesn't affect us as we have both Imposed Weight and Respite, which counteracts it quite well, but the bleed is the real killer. Ultimately though, the RNG required was simply too much. You practically need him to roll exclusively tails whenever he's doing damage in order to have enough health to be able to tank the bleed. The solution is, of course, always Eco. Using Sanguine Desire gives us both a Wrath and Lust resistance, allowing us to get through the first turn without being staggered. This significantly reduces the amount of bleed we have to tank while delaying the stagger a turn. Of course, getting staggered is inevitable, but it doesn't do much as we were already taking fatal damage in the first place. As soon as we're able to survive the first two turns, we are able to stagger the Gossipium thanks to him being fatal to slash damage and the bleed damage that was already done. We take White Gossipium with the intention of selling it immediately, and receive Faith as a bonus before heading into Inert Sloth for the final floor. Here we buy Phlebotomy Pack, Smokes and Wires, and Resolution, while also finding Painkillers and having the White Gossipium return like some kind of cursed doll. You can't get rid of it, it just keeps coming back. The final boss for this run has us up against the Drifting Fox. At first, this fight doesn't seem that bad. Of course, the fox does have a few pierce skills that may seem threatening at first, but you will quickly come to realize that his actually most threatening attack is his Gluttony one. It inflicts a small amount of rupture, but that rupture will be stuck on you permanently, causing very minor unavoidable chip damage. This will almost always end up staggering you and result in a death the next turn. On the first turn you have to clash with it, and the fox needs to roll all tails, as that's the only way Rodion actually has enough clash power to beat it. The second turn becomes a lot more lenient with both Respite's offense level and Imposed Weight's attack power, making clashing much easier. Of course, it's still basically impossible to avoid getting staggered, but getting staggered on the third turn is what you want, as it's the turn the fox does nothing. This does cause our sanity to tank, and without actually using a skill, Faith also does nothing to stop this. You just need to get a little bit lucky to win your clashes, but once you do, Bleed does the rest.
정도야? 칼날이 잘 드네요. 아마도 공격이 약점이었겠죠? 기록한다. 당신은 반드시 집행하겠습니다. 개체들의 체력이 많이 깎여나갔어. 괴로워하는 게 느껴지지 않아? 이 기세로 계속 나아가보자. 내가 동전을 굉장했다고. 금방 다녀올게. 꺼냈다. 방금 어떻게 하신 거죠? 깜짝 놀랐어요. 완벽한 한 방. 시원한걸? 승객이 딱 한 방 먹었어. 방금 공격 다음에 다른 실수하기를 다시 해볼까요? 영상으로 만들면 다른 직원에게도 도움이 될지도 몰라. 방금 전화는 굉장했다고. 금방 다녀올게. 부위 하나가 파괴되었어. 이대로 똑같이만 한다면 모든 부위를 파괴시킬 수 있겠지? 한 건 했다. 맛있는 거 준비해줘, 단테. 완벽하네. 오히려 살짝 싱거웠달까?
And that's how I soloed Mirror Dungeon 4 hard using only base Rodion. She's pretty middling in terms of the base identities, I'd say. She's not the best, but not the worst either. Pretty solid in the Mirror Dungeon when you have things like Wound Clarid, but the Clash power can certainly get the better of her at times. Ultimately though, not that bad. She's best used if you ever lack bleed potency when you're trying to build a bleed team. Anyway, that's it from me. Like and subscribe to not miss next time where we'll be using this character. Goodbye!